So what I want to do is on your on your um, on your scratch sheet of paper, let's go ahead and go through the circle of fifths and get that done. So let's go ahead and write that down really quick. Do as quick as you can, and I'll do it with you on a whiteboard here. Because you're gonna need this. You should have this next to you because we're gonna be building our own chords, and so you should have this available to you. Keyboard, get out of the way. Yeah, I know. All right, so circle of fifths. So the first thing to do is to try to draw a circle that doesn't look like that. Let's try another way. That's better. So we want kind of like a clock dial. 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10, 11, 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. So C, F, G, and then that gives us going to the right one step at a time. So 1, that's D, that's E, that's F sharp, and then 1 from A, B, C sharp, and then we go down B flat, E flat, A flat, G flat, C flat, and then D flat. Okay, and those are the majors. Sorry, I'm having to go back and forth. The chat just kind of got. So let's look at the relative minors, and we do the same thing. So do the same thing. Go down a fifth from A, and you get a D. Go up a fifth from A, and you have an E. And so those gives us our starting spot, and then skip one and add a whole step. So we go from A to B to C sharp to D sharp, and then we'll start back on the E, and that makes this an F sharp, this a G sharp, and this an A sharp. So let's do that same thing but down. So a whole step from A is G, F, E flat. Check our math, those are enharmonic, that's good. From the D down, that's C. So a whole step down would be B flat. Check your math, that's enharmonic, that's good. And one down would be A flat, same thing. Okay, so that gives us our key signatures. So keep that over to the side because you're gonna need this for your pop quiz. So for the pop quiz, the first thing that I want you to do is go to the link that starts with www My Music Theory 1, and I'll show you what it looks like right now. If it'll let me share. All right, so scroll down up until you see this, the first exercise here. And so what they're asking you to do is fairly easy. Identify the triads, major, minor, key, as indicated, and this is where you use your handy dandy circle of fifths. Whoops, I don't know why I am lost, but just a second. There, okay. All right, so So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to work through these exercises. I'm sorry, I've lost. There we go. There we go. So we're going to work through these exercises. This should take us for this whole thing. If you just read the instructions and do what they tell you, we have all the knowledge that we need to be able to do this all the way through to the end of this page. Don't hit next, because that'll just take you back to rhythms. What I would want you to do though is for these for exercises 6 and 7, don't stop at just the exercise. Don't just do A, B, and C. Analyze all the chords, and they're not just going to be subdominant, dominant, or tonic. So when you get to the lower part of the exercise, when you get to the lower part of the exercise, make sure that you do the whole thing, not just the ones that are labeled, okay? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to break you up into groups so that you can make this a group effort. So can everybody see this? This is what we just did, right? And everybody kind of figured out that you can hover and get the answer. So I just kind of wanted to say, a few things about these. In particular, try it like this one. You would not, if you were going to spell out this dominant triad, so if we're in a minor key, and a minor key has 2 flats, what key are we in? So the major key is E flat, so we should be in C minor, right? So if we're in C minor, who's the dominant of C minor? G, right? So if I start a chord on the note G, let me just kind of start it.
Robert, are you on letter C there?
What am I doing?
Yeah, that's G minor.
Yeah, it's G minor, 2 flats.
G minor, 2 flats. Oh, sorry. Yeah, for some reason, I'm sorry. Total brain fart. If I am in G minor, I said the wrong thing. I meant the right thing. So if I'm in G minor, the 5th degree of G minor, that is D. Sorry. So that would be D. So my first note would be D. If my second note is F natural, so D, F, A, I could spell it that way. Or the thing is that you can kind of see that we're in the key of G. Most of the time in music, we take that F and we kind of raise it. And we do that to emphasize the fact that the F sharp is actually leading to the G, presumably a GBD triad. So this one, that note right there, and I'll show you on the piano, because that's a lot easier to see it there than it is over here. So this is what happens in minor keys, and I'll show you on the scale. In minor keys, it's very often that our ear wants to hear what's called a harmonic minor. So I'm just going to use that same idea there. So this is a G. Right? So we have that F natural in that key. G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. The thing though, that if I'm going to play a G minor chord, that would be the spelling G, B flat, right? Okay. If I go to the 5th degree, G, so that would be a C, D, and I play this, that would be okay. That's okay. But in the key of G minor, it's preferable to play as the dominant because this note, that note wants to go here, which ultimately will end up like this. So if you listen to this note, this chord as home bass, G, B flat, D, the dominant would be, I would share that D, F sharp, A. So what you see is that you see these two notes right here going to these. You hear that? That's a really, really nice. We're done. That's it. That's it. That's it. The end. The, what is it? The, and like that. So we have D. What am I doing? In G, so D. That would be the dominant. The dominant with the raised seventh going to tonic. A much more pleasant and much more Western sound. And that's what happens in minor keys. I'll explain that better here. So we're going to take the same example, and let's leave it. We'll leave it in bass clef just for the hell of it. And so what did we say? We said we were in G minor. So we'll have the two flats, one there, one there. That's pretty thick there. I'll just leave it like that. So G. So if we're starting it on the pitch D, there's a D, there's an F, and an A. I'm really going to have to fix that. Sorry. So let's look at what actually happens here. So I have a G. I'm going to construct a scale in G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. So that's my G minor scale. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Or if I'm going to build the triads here, then a G minor triad would be there. I'm going to go ahead and put a key signature in here. My second triad would be there. My third triad would be there. Like that. And like that. So look at what happens on the 5. If I was just gonna build these and actually call them out by their texture, by the way, that's what it's called. Not texture, quality. When you're actually naming a triad by the fact that it's a major, minor, dominant, not dominant, but diminished or augmented, that's called a quality of a chord. And so in G minor, that one in Roman numerals, that should be a Roman numeral 1 because it's a minor one. But look at what happens to the second one. So I have A, C natural, E. This is also a minor triad because this has a minor third right here. So this gets a little 2. In the third one, look at what happens here. B flat, D, F, that's a major triad, so it gets a capital 3. It gets an up 3 in Roman numerals. The fourth one, the distance between the C and the E natural is also a major third. So C to E natural to G, that's also major. I'm sorry, that's because I just kind of, something was wrong here. Long days, I tell you. Tuesdays are a mess for me. So, in the key signature, sorry, there should be a C, E flat, and G. So that's a minor. That should be in a regular, in a minor scale, there should be a minor. The 4 should be a minor. But look at what happens in the 5th also. D, F natural, and A. C, E flat. Yeah, it's a diminished chord. Let me do something. Obviously, I just kind of messed this up. Let me just kind of, sorry, I'm going to start this one over again. Just trust me, it's been a long day. So I'm gonna try this time to slow down enough to be able to get it right. But this is what happens with minors in the regular spelling of the chord. And then the other, while I'm doing this, I'll do this. All right, so I'm gonna fix this, I promise you. So in G minor, you have the two flats, G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G. Building the line, B flat, D, C natural, E flat, D, F, E flat, G, F, A, E flat, G, B flat, F, A, C, and G, B flat, D. Okay. This was a minor one. It has a minor third here from the G to the B flat is a minor third. This one is your diminished. We should have an A and a C, which is a minor third, but then we have another minor third. So you have a minor third there and a minor third there. That's a diminished triad. Then you have the B flat, D, F, and that is, in fact, major. Then you have a C, E flat, G, which is a minor triad, and that's a fourth, a little 4. Then your 5th is F, D, A. So, I'm sorry, D, F, A, which is a minor third right here, so that's also another minor. Whoops. Minor. But now we have E flat, G, B flat, which is major, and F, A, C, which is major. There, that looks much better to me. Huh? Better, Cat?
Other than the Roman numeral 6 being 4.
You know what? You're gonna blame me. You're gonna blame me for my dyslexia or my not being very smart here.
There you go.
There, better. Thank you. All right. So the focus here, though, is this guy right here. That chord right there, in our music, for it to actually serve as a dominant, we really do like for this note right here to actually serve as a leading tone. And the reason is there's a form of minor scale that you achieve by raising the 5th. Oh, I'm sorry, raising the 7th. So this is called harmonic minor. And there are two, the other way, this way that I have it spelled out here, it's called pure minor. When you raise the 7th, that's called harmonic minor. There's yet another kind of scale that happens when you raise the 7th on the way up. But if you flatten it, in other words, flatten it on the way down, this kind of scale, it's called a melodic minor. So it's called a harmonic minor when you raise the seventh going up, and it gives you this home bass right here. But when you use it any other way, whenever you use it coming down, then you actually go back to the pure minor. So a melodic minor really combines a pure minor going down and a harmonic minor going up. And the way they sound different, and people, especially when you're building melodies around them, they just sound kind of cool. So I'm going to do this we'll just keep it in G minor. So G minor. So normally the pure minor, G, harmonic minor, see that sounds kind of exotic, you know, kind of cool. In its melodic minor form, whoops. Oh, I knew that I was going to do that. Still, all of them are going to be having that as home base. All right. So that's why when we're doing a dominant, a lot of times when people write a dominant in a minor key, they'll raise that to make it a leading tone into it. It gives you the sense of home. Okay. So the idea is that it is I think it was Warren that just said, yeah, you can play minor scale 3 different ways, and that's really cool. That gives you a lot of options, and it gives you a lot of options with expectations, creating an expectation, and tension and release, tension, release, that kind of tension, and so you have a lot of possibilities with that, and you can kind of see. In different types of music, you can see this being used in different ways. So that was one of the things that I've mentioned, but not very well the last time. So tonight, I kind of wanted to let me go back to this for a bit, and if I keep my head on straight and I don't have to redo anything again, I'll be really, really happy. Let me do this business and clean up some things. All right. So let's see. So what I wanted to do today is to just kind of introduce the concept of tetrads. So if triads were fun, these are going to be a lot more fun. Ideally, in a key signature like in C major, we already have a C major triad in reposition, which would be that one. But if I just kind of continue that idea of building space, 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 line, line, line within the octave, so if I have an octave between C and C, but I want to continue this idea of going space, 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 I'm really missing one in there. And within the octave, the one that I'm missing is really the seventh here, this one. So I could have line, 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 and that still gives me a nice little chord here. If I can. Which is very, very 70s. Recognize that, don't you? As time goes on, right? Was that Chicago? So very, very 70s. So that's the spelling of a 7 chord in reposition in the tonic 7 chord in Color My World. That was it. That was it. All right, so when you play it all together, it sounds really nice, and it gives you the advantage that you have a root position tonic that has a leading tone in it, and it sounds nice. It doesn't create a whole lot of dissonance unless you put these two together. If you put a C right here, there's a little bit of a clash there. But when you spell them out this way without that, it sounds actually pretty nice. So. But if I put these two together, it sounds like you get that little thing in there. When you spread them out, it sounds much nicer. So that's a way to be able to manipulate harmonics too. So that is the way that a tetrad is represented. It's represented by the tonic, then a third, then a fifth, and then a seventh up from the root, if it's in root position. So you have 1, 3, 5, 7 in that, starting with that one. Let's see what happens with a D. It's the same idea. So now you would have space, 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 and then you would have line, 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 and then you would have space, 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 and line, 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 and so on. And so if we actually look at what happens then with the intervals, you'll see that in a major key, if you're starting at the tonic, which is still going to be here, you're still going to have your major third here, and you're still going to have your fifth there, but then you have a major seventh here. And this is usually represented by a 1 like that and a 7 here. Going back to the concept that whenever you're doing the Roman numerals or the figured bass, you're really taking into account the distance between the bottom note. So we have 1, 2, 3, so that would be a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would be a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that would be a 7. But since this is the most common spelling of that chord, we just kind of don't put the 5 and the 3 in. So we just call it 1, 7. Okay? I know that there was some stuff in the chat. Tetrad in 70s Tetrads. Thank you. $400. Okay. All right. So when these other chords will be spelled out the same way that we had before. So if before we were having this was going to be a minor chord, then this is still going to be a minor. In the common spelling of these, when we're talking about tetrads, the addition of a triangle is going to signify a major. Typically, when you put a 7 in there, it means a minor 7, unless you put an M in front of it. So this chord can actually be represented like this. This would be in root position with a 7 in front of it, and it implies that this would be on the second degree with the 7th, the distance of a 7th between the root and that one. So if you count those, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so all of these are in root position. So that means that the first root position tetrad will be set to be 7, would be the indication that it would be in root position. Okay? So what happens with tetrads then and the way that they can actually be spelled? Well, this gets a little bit more complicated than the triads, because since you have 4 notes to deal with, now you have different ways to invert them. So a spelling on the C chord would be this one. but you can also spell it this way, or you could also spell it this way, or you could also spell it this way, which would suck. And so when we actually given it the Roman numeral treatment, we still count the distance between that bottom number and what makes that triad. So if I count it from here to here, 1, 2, 3, that's still a third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's still a fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will be a 1, 6. And if you want to be really, really sure that people know that to spell it right, it should be a 1, 6, 5. You don't have to put the 5 in there because the 6 already indicates that you're going to have that. Most people put that 5 to make sure that you're indicating that it's a 7 chord, a tetrad, so that it doesn't get confused with a triad. So this would be a C major 7. This would be C major 7 in first inversion. Look at what happens in this one. You have the distance between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you still have, it's still a 1 chord with a 6 at the top. But what makes it really, really important here is that fourth and the third. And so that's what makes that one kind of groove. So most of the time you don't really represent that 6 up on top, and you just call it a 4/3 chord. And that indicates a second inversion. So we would have root position, first inversion, second inversion. And then you have this stupid thing that's called the third inversion. Not stupid, but yeah, you're right. You know, who is it that said this? Warren. Warren put in the chat that you can only find them clustered like this in really weird compositions. This is what's called a closed position. The closest that you can actually get them is this. The other ones are called open. I'll show you what that means in just a second. But so the third inversion here would be the distance between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'd have a 6, still a 6 at the top, right? 1, 2, 6, 6. But then you'd have a 2 down here. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and 2. So now you don't really put the 6 because it's redundant, but you would be putting a 4, 2, and that indicates a third inversion. The thing though is that in music, a lot of times if you put that, if I were to spell out that chord on a keyboard, that's what it would sound like. But if I spread them out a little bit and I spell it pretty much the same way with the B at the bottom, and I go and I skip that interval right here. But instead of putting it there, I'll put it up here. It would be spelled out the same way you spell it the same way, and it would still be that inversion. But it would sound, instead of here, you would go, which is a much more pleasant sounding. So just by the fact that I'm actually spreading that B and that C by an octave, it just sounds a lot better. It would still be third inversion. Because what it's actually telling you that is that the B is really at the bottom, and because the B is a seventh of the chord, then that's a third inversion. So first inversion, or I'm sorry, root position starts with the root, second inversion or first inversion actually starts with the third at the bottom. Second inversion starts with the fifth at the bottom. Third inversion starts with the seventh at the bottom. So when you're actually doing what's our when you're actually doing the kind of analysis that actually requires a figured bass analysis, then looking at it this way is it makes sense. But you just kind of have to figure it out. And when you're doing exercises like the one that we started with tonight, it's better to do something like, let me see, like anytime that you see a cluster of notes, and I'm just going to do this just randomly. Let's just kind of say that you have this thing that you can't really figure out what it might be. So let's just figure it. Now, I just did that randomly. I have no idea what the hell that chord might look like, but whenever you're confronted with something like this on a score or anything that you're trying to analyze, the best thing to do is just kind of spread them out and say, okay, I have a D, I have an F, I have a C, an E, I have an A D, and a G. All right? Look at the notes that repeat themselves. The D repeats itself. So I'll just take that one out just for the hell of it. And now let's start to see, can I organize this in a grouping that tells me line, 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 space, space, space. Well, the first thing that I see in here that kind of stands out is that F, A, C, E. I already know that that's space, 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 right? The one that doesn't fit is the one that was doubled, which is that damn D. But let's say that I just put that D down here. That would be, depending on where you are, that would be either line, 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 line. So let's do it this way on the space. Space, 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 space. And then a D. So D, F, A, C, E. So anytime that you're trying to analyze chords, a really good way to do this is to just actually write out the names and see if you can organize it in space, 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 line, line, line. When you do that, then check out the key signature, see where it is that you are, and then that will give you a clue as to relative where am I if this is a D. If I'm in a key signature that has no flats and no sharps, then the D would be the second degree of the scale. So this would be my supertonic, if you want to say it that way, because it would be the second, built on the second degree of the scale. Okay. So once again, going back to the original thought, why is it that we do this? Well, because a lot of times you might be pulling a song from the radio or recording, and you kind of want to say, okay, well, what's the actual chord spelling? The thing, though, in reality, and some of you guys will know this and some of you guys don't, is that not all the chords, you're not going to go from root position to root position. 5. Very often you'll do this. If this is my first, my tonic, my fifth will be here, and all I'm doing, you can't really see my fingers, but let me do it this way. I'm going to show you how this actually works for a musician. Let's say that I put my thumb here, my third finger here, and my fifth finger here. All I have to do to actually play, and this would be playing my tonic. So this is C, E, G, which is my one chord. All I have to do to play a 1-5-1 is to leave the G exactly where it is, switch my finger here to my second finger, and move my thumb over. So really the only movement that my hand is doing here is moving my thumb over. And this is what it kind of sounds like here. So the spelling is C, E, G, B, D, G. You see? And your ear picks that up as a very, very natural way of rolling. And it's natural because it's easy, it falls, it's very, very accessible, and all of these relationships are right next to each other. And so a pianist, you know, especially when you're like playing all night, you kind of want to save a little bit of energy. You don't want to go root, 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 root like that. You can in some types of music, but then everything sounds exactly the same. And so that way, whenever you're playing with going from one chord to another one smoothly, that's called voice leading, and that's important when you're trying to write music, because then the voice leading tells you what natural intervals are, and it tells you what the natural tendencies of a voice or people singing, which ultimately, you know, instruments are going to want to copy that. Okay? That's an extended harmony also if you want 3 people singing those notes. Yeah. And so that's another thing is if you have a group of singers that are going to be singing these intervals, when you make wide intervals for singers, they're much harder to hear than closer intervals that are closer to each other. So for a singer, it's the same thing as a guitarist or a pianist keeping their fingers close. It's a lot more accessible. Okay. All right. So my task for you for next week is going to be to try to do the exercise, and I'm just kind of get you started with the other ones. Where are they? There we go. These guys. So at the beginning, this is going to be the second exercise. This is going to take you a little while, but work through it. It's really worth it. First, it'll start with triads. Again, you have these are the triad inversions here. Remember the 5-3. It's kind of, you don't have to, but I'm glad that he put it down just because it kind of reminds you. So those are going to be the inversions, and they're going to ask you to kind of work out the inversions, and and this is actually important if you're starting to write out your music. This is really, really important, is to actually analyze a chord for a mistake if you've made a mistake. Sometimes those mistakes are actually great because you learn a lot from the way that a mistake sounds. You kind of going, wow, I don't like the way that sounds. Why not? And so then you kind of look at it and go, that's not what I really meant. So it's important to actually look for, you know, little goof ups there. If you have a keyboard or if you have a visual instrument like a guitar or a bass or something like that, use it and to spell out the chords. This is harder to do one note at a time on a trumpet. Okay. But then it'll ask you to construct triads and analyze them, and then it'll start going into the tetrads. This is just going to be a simple analysis. Here, this one is going to. Oh, I wanted to do this to. I'll come back to this one in just a minute because there are non-chord tones in here that we have to account for, and that's another review. But then it actually asks you to actually spell out using these. So this becomes a math issue, you know, which is kind of cool. And I didn't go through this one. So there's going to be some of these that are going to need explanation, especially the little sharps and stuff like that go in it. But we'll figure it out. If you get to something that you don't understand, leave it blank, and we'll get to it the next time. SATB means soprano, tenor, and bass. If you don't, you may not have enough, you know, to be able to finish it. See how far you can actually get. I think that this class should have enough to be able to get to as far as this exercise is, number 7. Okay, and then for the next couple of weeks, I can get us above that, and then we'll start into jazz chords, because that's where I would want to leave this kind of formal analysis, because it's no longer necessary if you're just going to write you know, music. Okay. All right. So work as much as of this one as you can. That's going to be your homework. And let me see. Wanted to show you that's one more time. Let's see. This is what? That's right. This is another. I think I showed you this, right? I think I showed you the Batman theme, right? I'll leave you with that tonight. Here's Batman, and you can kind of figure out the chords now, because it's your regular. That's your 12-bar blues there. Here's a turnaround: 5, 4, 1, and 1, 1, 4, 2, 3, 4. Here's a 4 chord: 1, 5, 4, 1. All right, just so you can sleep at night. That's how Batman's done. And I am pretty much done.